I had spent the summer vacation with my friends and my sister in the most beautiful way. There were only a few days left before school started. During this summer vacation, we had never had the opportunity to visit our relatives. Before school started, Mom and Dad told my sister Katrina and me to spend a week or so at the home of our Uncle Daniel and Aunt Mia. They live at the end of a small town, even on the outskirts of town. My uncle farms and my aunt takes care of the animals for a living. The boring part was that there was no internet in my uncle's house. 1 week without internet was unacceptable for me. My mother packed our bags with enough clothes to last us for a week. It was a 4-hour drive to my uncle's house. We finally arrived at my uncle's house after a long and tiring drive. It was dark and smelled like food outside. Apparently, my aunt had prepared wonderful food for us. My father and my uncle said goodbye after a short conversation and left us in my uncle's care. After we had our dinner, we decided to go to bed early as there was no phone, TV, or anything else to pass the time. When we woke up the next morning after a good breakfast, my uncle took us to the cornfield. The field was very big, and there was a small stream nearby. Uncle said that we shouldn't go too far from the field, because recently the railings had gone missing and some things had disappeared. When I asked him, "Why don't you call the police?" he said that he had called the police, but they had found no trace. My uncle had a Nokia phone with a button. It was getting dark. My sister and I were playing hide and seek in the cornfield. I had gone deeper and deeper into the field so that my sister wouldn't find me. I lay down on the ground so that she wouldn't find me. There was so much corn in the field that you couldn't see anything. I was sure that she wouldn't find me. I was getting tired of waiting. My stomach was growling with hunger. I got up and started walking towards my uncle's house. Suddenly I heard a noise. I lay down on the ground again and waited, and through the compacted corn I could just faintly see someone coming this way. When the figure got closer, he didn't look like my uncle either. He was a middle-aged man with a sullen face and torn clothes. I went to my uncle's house by taking a detour around the back of the corn, close to the stream, so that the man wouldn't notice me. I told my uncle there was someone in the field. He called 911. When the police arrived at the farm, they checked the place thoroughly. He said he couldn't find anyone, but someone had found a small shovel on the ground. This confirmed that someone had sneaked into the field. The police said that if we found anything suspicious, we should call him immediately and that he would be waiting nearby. In the excitement of the event, my aunt hadn't been able to cook for us, so we had a snack from the fridge and went back to bed. I knew I couldn't sleep, so I kept checking out the window to see if anyone was crossing the field. After about 1 hour of looking in the same direction, I was getting sleepy and decided to go back to bed, but out of the corner of my eye, I saw something moving in the field. I rubbed my eyes and looked again. Yes, there was someone there. I immediately went to my uncle and aunt's room and got them out of bed. My uncle immediately called 911. The police arrived in a very short time because they were nearby. They started to search the field thoroughly. We learned that 2 suspects were caught trying to escape from behind the creek. Both of them were armed. We didn't get any answers as to why they broke into the farm. The criminals were resistant to talk. We couldn't understand if the 2 suspects had just broken in to steal something or if they wanted to harm us. After this frightening incident, we called my father from my uncle's phone to pick us up. My father took us back home. After this incident, we went to our uncle's house for sleepovers a few more times, but no such bad incidents happened after that.
Before starting the second story, do not forget to subscribe and like the video.
My name is Dave. I am 16 years old. My mom and dad took me out of school because I was not a successful student in school, and that's why we haven't spoken for a long time. For 2 years, I have been living with my grandparents in their house. My grandfather has a cornfield, not very big but medium-sized. I work in the field with my grandfather. We start planting in May and harvest the corn in August. In winter, I usually take care of my grandfather's 2 cows and a coop full of chickens. When this terrible incident happened, we were nearing the end of the summer and it was time to harvest the corn. After mowing some of the corn with my grandfather, I took a short break and went to bed for a little sleep. After sleeping for half an hour or an hour, I got up and left the house to go back to work. As I was walking to the field, I saw my grandfather talking to a human being. Normally, this is nothing strange, but I hadn't seen anyone else come by here in 2 years, so I was a bit worried. I walked towards them with quick steps. My grandfather was telling the strange man that he was getting old, that he wanted to retire, and that he didn't want to deal with the fields anymore. I quickly intervened and shouted, "Grandfather, what are you doing?" Grandfather replied, "Don't interfere, son." The foreign man said he would come back for the transfer. I protested, "No, these fields are not for sale." But the man didn't look very pleased. He got into his car and drove off with a sour face. A day and a half, 2 days had passed, and that strange man had come again to negotiate with my grandfather. I was about to go crazy, so I pushed him away without letting him talk to my grandfather. 3 days after this incident, I woke up around 3 a.m. I jumped out of bed and went to the window. The cornfield was on fire. I ran to wake up my grandfather, and after half an hour of struggle, we managed to extinguish the field. Half of the corn was burnt, but we saved the other half. I immediately called 911 and waited for the police to arrive on the scene. After a thorough search, the police said that they found a lighter on the ground and that gasoline had been poured on the ground. They asked us if we had any enemies. We told them that no one had been here for 2 years. After the police left, I thought that the man who wanted to buy the field might have done it. But I didn't have any evidence, even though I thought he did it. I still couldn't blame him. After that, we installed a camera in the house to see the field for security purposes.